How can I fix sleep apnea naturally? If you've been dealing with sleep apnea, then you've probably already been down the medical route and are more than likely a little frustrated. If that sounds familiar, then you are in the right place. I am here to answer that question in today's video, so let's dive right on in. Hi, I'm Dr. Kelly Shockley, Doctor of Cause, chiropractic, board certified in sports medicine, and specialized in clinical nutrition. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you 6 lifestyle remedies that can start improving your sleep apnea that you can implement today. We'll then cover the most important variable that you might be missing when it comes to addressing your sleep apnea. And finally, I will be sharing with you the behind closed doors method for solving your sleep apnea problems once and for all. Let's get started. Let's go over those 6 home remedies for helping manage and improve your sleep apnea. The very first one, more than likely you have already heard, and it is true, we need to work on weight management. Now, not everybody who has sleep apnea is overweight, but a number of people who do have sleep apnea do have issues with weight. And you probably know the mechanics behind all of this, but when we are carrying excess weight, really, we also get weight in our tongue. And when we relax at night, it can relax itself and close our air passageway. That's one form of sleep apnea. But ultimately too, when we're carrying more weight, we're more inflamed, tissues have more edema in them, and ultimately all of that can contribute to why you're actually struggling with sleep apnea to begin with. Now, don't fret about this one. I'm going to give you some really kind of handy tools for how can you actually achieve this more easily than if you've tried to do it before and just have not had success. So we'll come back to this. Something else that's incredibly important is exercise. Now, if you're not used to exercising on a regular basis, just start slow and then start to build from there. People get really great benefit from Pilates and also yoga. Now, there's all kinds of different forms of yoga as well. So it's not a one size fits all. Try them out and figure out what works best for you. Something that's cool about yoga is there's a lot of focus on breathing. Working on those breathing techniques actually can strengthen your respiratory system, which is something that can be really beneficial for helping with sleep apnea. So the main thing is we want to incorporate more activity, more exercise. And even if that's just trying to add more steps into your day by maybe parking a little bit further away from the grocery store, or if you're going into the office still, parking further away, taking the stairs, making several trips. When you're bringing in, all of your groceries from the store, you could take multiple trips instead of just doing one big trip like I would normally do. Try to incorporate more activity into your day. It improves the cardiovascular system. It improves the respiratory system. It will help decrease the inflammation. And ultimately, that can help decrease the negative impacts, the severity of your sleep apnea. The third aspect that we can talk about is sleep positioning and maybe altering that to some way, shape, or form. Now, I'm a chiropractor, so of course, sleeping in a slightly upright position is not the first thing that I'm going to recommend, but ultimately, sleep is more important than biomechanics. And if we can get you to sleep more soundly at night, we were going to be doing a better job. So having the bed slightly tilted so you're a little bit more upright can actually be helpful for what normally would happen if you're laying flat on your back, to avoid that, for all the tissue to relax and kind of close up your airway at night. A fourth tip would be using a humidifier, especially like if you live in a dry climate like I do out in Colorado, and now we are going into the driest part of our year when winter is around the corner. That dry air can be super irritating to our airways. So utilizing a humidifier in your room at night when you're sleeping can actually help keep that tissue, free from irritants and a little bit moist the way that it was designed to be, so that it can help it function at a higher level. For an added bonus in your humidifier, you can use oils, essential oils like peppermint, eucalyptus, or lavender, which are really soothing to the respiratory system and just in general. That might also help to open up your airways better at night as well. Number 5 involves a bit of lifestyle factor in there. Now, smoking and alcohol could aggravate all of your sleep apnea symptoms. And part of that is because alcohol itself is going to relax the muscles, which are in the throat, and that could ultimately lead to more likelihood of that obstruction if that's the type of sleep apnea that you're struggling with, alcohol can compound the issues. And same thing with tobacco, though it works more from an inflammatory perspective. We're just creating more inflammation, more swelling in the tissues, so that if the tissues are swollen, the airways are already going to be minimized as a result. So avoiding both of those would be not just helpful for sleep apnea, but overall health and well-being, huge for just improvement. So if you can avoid those, or at least severely reduce the amount, you should see benefits in how you're sleeping at night and have fewer disruptions and, deeper levels of sleep being able to be achieved. Now, the last one is kind of more along the lines of symptom management. And I know it's a toss-up, but using a device to help with sleeping at night. Unfortunately, with sleep apnea, it can be this vicious kind of feed-forward process. When you're not sleeping well at night, it exacerbates everything we were already talking about, everything you already know sleep apnea to be. It can exacerbate that, which then compounds your sleep apnea and basically worsens it. So for a time being, until we can actually resolve what is the underlying cause of why you ended up with sleep apnea in the first place, then we can utilize this in the meantime to try to keep it from getting worse and actually provide some relief and benefit. If you're not getting into deep levels of sleep at night, your body can't repair, your brain doesn't function the way that it should. There's all kinds of things the brain's supposed to be doing at night while you're sleeping, but that only gets achieved if you're getting to those deep levels of sleep. So when you have sleep apnea, you're not getting into deep levels of sleep, and that's detrimental to everything health related. But the other thing we know about with sleep apnea is we're not getting oxygen levels, high enough so that all the tissues throughout the entire body can have their oxygen, which they all need to survive. So using the oral appliance or a CPAP or some sort of a breathing device, more oxygen, while I don't want that to be your long-term reality, it really can be helpful in the interim of, while we're figuring out why you ended up with this in the first place. When you can get deeper levels of sleep and your oxygen levels are staying high all throughout the day, you will feel so much better. And that in and of itself can help you be able to employ some of these other strategies of like exercising and, not feeling like maybe you're just wiped out and the day's been stressful. Maybe you'll already feel more vivacious and more motivated that you don't turn to alcohol to kind of relax you at the end of the day. And it creates more opportunity for you to be able to feel more motivated to employ some of these other strategies. Now, I'm curious, have you tried any of these strategies, or are they new? Which one do you want to try right away? Like, I would personally pick the humidifier because that's pretty easy to do like immediately. No extra effort other than make sure it's full of water. So let me know. Drop your comments down below in the comments. I do read every single one of them and respond as always. So I appreciate that. And now let's move into the most important variable that most people I have addressed with sleep apnea are not actually addressing. Okay. And it's something that gets glazed over in traditional medicine, and that is your diet. Okay. I know it's not the really fun thing to talk about, but you can improve your health and your ability to sleep more soundly at night with every bite that you take. And the good news is you don't have to be perfect, okay? But we do need to make healthier decisions at least 80 to 90% of the time. The problem with diet and why this is such a negative effect for us is not only does it impact the weight side of things, but mostly it's more about the inflammation. With every bite you're taking, you're either creating inflammation or you're helping to get rid of it or squash it out. Inflammation is the root cause of all disease and illness that there actually is. And if you think about it, it's like the body's on fire when it's inflamed. Definitely doesn't sound like a great scenario. And the most important variable that I see that influences are we inflamed or not is what we're choosing to eat. So real quick, okay, how we handle food is we want to eat things the way that they grow in nature. That's where the Whole30 diet got a lot of great traction, is because nothing's processed. It doesn't have all the chemicals or the additives and the emulsifiers or the humectants and all of this stuff that we're not intended to be consuming. Now, here's something you need to know about our FDA, our Food and Drug Administration. My knowledge is our banned substance list has not been updated since like around the 60s. It's a long time ago, people. And there's only about 30 substances that are banned, which means all the other ones are free reign. Now, if you go up to Canada, their equivalent of the FDA on their banned substance list has somewhere between 500 and 600. If you go over to Europe, their equivalent, they have closer to 1,500 items that have been banned. They don't allow food dye into their foods because they're so detrimental to our health. In fact, over there, if you choose to make a product that has an artificial dye or coloring in it, you know, our red dye 40, our yellow dye 5, all those fun things that you see in so many products here in the US, you have to put the equivalent of a Surgeon General's warning on your product because it's that risky for your health. Not good stuff, right? We weren't intended to eat these things. So the easiest like rule of thumb is eat food the way that it grows or occurs in nature. The other rule of thumb with this is when you go to the grocery store, shop in the perimeter, minus the bakery. The bakery might be, you know, a moment of satisfaction on the lips, but it's a lifetime on the hips, right? We don't want to go there. It also, the bakery, those are some of the foods that are most detrimental and are the best for creating inflammation in the body. So avoid the bakery. The rest of the perimeter is your produce and your meat section. When you go shop for proteins, try to get them clean, meaning unadulterated. Like, again, livestock, fish, all of that growing in nature or living in nature, eating what they're supposed to without us adulterating them, without us injecting them with hormones and antibiotics, without us feeding them garbage that they're not designed to eat, and not having them be confined, right? Living in a humane, which means the way God intended them. If they live that way, they're actually really good for us. So do the best that you can to get things that are grass-fed, grass-finished, pasture-raised, cage-free, hormone-free, antibiotic-free, all of that. We don't want to be consuming those products otherwise because they are detrimental to our health and they will create inflammation. Okay? Use organic when you can. If you're on a bit of a budget and that stresses you out, look at the Dirty Dozen list. You can find that, just Google Dirty Dozen. That's the produce that you absolutely do not want to consume unless you're buying the organic version because the amount of pesticides, chemicals that they test for are really high. So don't buy them if you can't find them organic. Simple rule of thumb. Okay. So food is incredibly important. Trying to eat things as much as they occur in nature as possible, which ultimately means you're going to have to do a little bit more food cooking and prepping on your own. We don't have control when we start eating outside of our homes. I know it's convenient. I know it's a social environment, but the challenge is it's compromised. Same thing when we buy things that come in a package or they're already pre-made for us. They're compromised in some way, shape, or form. And I know that's not fun and it's not very helpful when life is really chaotic. But at the end of the day, if you want to be healthy, if you want to resolve sleep apnea, you've got to address this issue because, like I said, it's probably one of the things that's working against you the most. Now, before I get into the behind closed doors method for addressing and ending your sleep apnea once and for all, I just want to take a moment and remind you, click the subscribe button down below, turn those notifications on, give me a big thumbs up while you're down there. I appreciate your support. I am regularly producing videos for you, teaching you how to take back control of your health, so that you can achieve what I call total body mastery, which ultimately means you're so resilient when it comes to health and health challenges that the rest of the world faces. So again, click that subscribe button, turn the notifications on, and give me a big thumbs up. Appreciate it. What is this behind closed doors method that your MD is not going to mention to you? It's finding the cause of why you ended up with sleep apnea in the first place. Okay. And it oftentimes is outside of what you've already had evaluated. Like going through and doing a sleep study doesn't tell us anything more than how severe your sleep apnea actually is. And yes, we can qualify between the different versions of sleep apnea, which one you're struggling with. But ultimately, if you weren't born this way, something changed about your health. Something caused you to have sleep apnea. And if all we continue to do is address sleep apnea, do you realize what we're doing is we're just managing symptoms? It's like, have you ever seen a stain on the ceiling? Symptom-based, symptom managing care would be simply choosing to paint over the stain. Like you can't see it, looks better. Evidently it must be gone. It was like, I have patients that come to me who in their brain They had high blood pressure problems, but they're on a medication, so they don't have high blood pressure problems any longer. No, the medication's just masking the fact that the problem's still there. Like if you stop taking the medication, does the blood pressure elevate again? Yeah, because you didn't fix the issue, or this person, not you specifically, but the person didn't address the issue. So it's the same thing with sleep apnea. If all we do is we put you on a CPAP machine and we put you on different medications to try to help normalize and get you to sleep better at night and all the things, all we're doing is we're painting over the stain in the ceiling. How long is that going to work? And here's the thing, when you cover up symptoms, when you manage symptoms, which is what our traditional medicine approach is, unfortunately, what happens if you don't address the underlying cause? Well, it's the same scenario as the stain in the ceiling. Like if we paint over it, but we didn't address why it ended up there in the first place, doesn't that create more opportunity for something worse to happen? Yeah, you could have your whole ceiling fall in on you because you didn't address the underlying leak that was there. Same thing with your health. If you don't address the underlying cause of why you're dealing with one particular symptom or a different type of disease or disorder or condition, and all you do is you take a medication and you mask that symptom or you manage that symptom, you didn't address the underlying cause of the problem. And ultimately, somewhere down the road, you're going to have a bigger issue. Sorry, not a fear tactic, just reality. So the way that you actually figure out sleep apnea and resolve it is you have to figure out why you had it in the first place. And unfortunately, that's not how medicine is being done in this country, thanks to the standard of care. It's all symptom managing. So how do you actually determine what caused your sleep apnea in the first place? Because guess what? For you, it's going to be different than somebody else. We are all unique, and how we end up with health issues, even if the health issue is the same, is an entirely different story. It ultimately means it needs to be addressed in an entirely different way. It needs to be specific to you. That's the only way that you can actually fix problems. So if you're sitting there going like, how do I do this? Don't worry, I've got you covered, okay? If you go below the video in the description, click on it so it expands. Look for my 5-day health challenge. Now, first of all, don't stress. It doesn't take 5 days and you're not really being challenged. There's not a test at the end or anything like that. This is just the easiest way for me to show you specifically how you're going to figure out what's causing your sleep apnea. By the end of the 5th video is really what it is. And they're short. They're in chunks. You will know exactly what's causing your sleep apnea, how to determine that, how to address the underlying issues so that you can start actually healing yourself and reclaiming your health and ultimately getting rid of a sleep apnea machine, and having health and vivaciousness and energy and all the things that you're not having right now. So make sure you go down in that description right below this video, click on it, find the 5-day health challenge, sign up for it, and you will be well on your way. I hope today was helpful and created some insight for you, and that I see you on a future episode. Have an awesome day and God bless.